Hello, I am Brianne Lazinski. I am the creator of Soul's Compass Healing, which is an online platform where I offer astrological counseling, energy reading, Akashic record dives, essentially services for folks who want to dig deep into their healing journey. And this new moon report is going to be just that. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is for the hearts who have become fainted due to life's heaviness. And so I do hope that these words make sense in some sort of constellation. And if they don't, welcome to the chaos of my mind, where I am constantly trying to connect the dots between random phenomenon that fascinates me. All right. Anyways, let's get to it. Sagittarius new moon, December 12th, 2023. We have got a new moon in Sagittarius conjunct Mars, opposing Medusa, who is retrograde in Gemini. This is one axis of a grand cross, a grand mutable cross actually happening, involving the other axis is Neptune in the sign of Pisces, who actually just recently went direct, who is opposing Juno in the sign of Virgo, who is about to go retrograde. Yeah. So I'm going to spend the majority of my talk talking about this mutable grand cross, and I do want to highlight the fact that even though this is very poignant right now because this new moon is highlighting this, it's creating a grand cross aspect. The axis point between Neptune and Juno in the Pisces Virgo axis, along with that T-square with Medusa, is actually going to continue until the beginning of March, because Medusa is going retrograde, well, she is right now, and Juno will be going retrograde, and Neptune moves so slowly. So this energy is going to be with us for the next several months, and I really feel strongly about it. And so that's what I'm going to cover. I'm sure there's plenty of other people covering plenty of other fascinating things going on. This is just the current rabbit hole that I'm fascinated with. All right, before we get really into it though, I just want to start by just mentioning a few other aspects that kind of caught my eye. So we have Neptune in conjunct the South Node in Libra. Can be really hard to grasp how and why relationships have affected and impacted reality. Neptune has been sextiling Pluto for a long time. At a certain point, it is impossible to grasp because the web of life, relations, cause and effect goes way beyond our ability to conceive. I want to talk about, so everything that I'm talking about today is of course informed by the Pluto placement and the moon's nodes primarily. That is how we jump into the chart. And with that being said, I think an important aspect is that Venus, the ruler of our south node, is sexy-quadrate Medusa in gibbous phase, and in disseminating phase, sexy-quadrate Neptune. And this aspect is a powerful adjustment. Like, something requires changing and there's a strong resistance to it. So we're looking at multiple layers of relationship with ourself, with the earth, with society, with other people. Is there balance? Is there reciprocity? Is there mutual support? Is there give and take? The Taurus side of Venus represents individual needs for survival. The Libra side of Venus represents how we get our needs met through relationship, because no one can survive alone. We all have needs, and it's so easy to project onto others that they will meet our needs. So I am going to remind us again about the Venus underworld journey that we had this year. And the major theme of that was self-worth. So an example of how this can play out is a person does not feel worthy without being dependent upon external validation from others, right? So they are, they might be experiencing phenomenon such as entering into a relationship, excited to feel worthy of love through the validation of someone else, and that person, yep, fits the bill. They validate them, they love bomb them, they make them feel worthy, and they do this at other important intervals to keep the relationship going. Then in between the breadcrumbs of love, this is just, it's enough to validate that person's worth. And now that Venus is in Scorpio, we are now seeing what is going on underneath the surface of these dynamics in the subconscious. If something were to happen to that other person where they could no longer play that part of, being this external validator, then the person themselves becomes conscious that they were outsourcing their power. And this is where the crisis of disillusionment enters. This is a very painful experience because we can then see the damages done by projecting needs unconsciously onto others. This, in essence, giving one's power away. Venus in Scorpio can have that flare. Essentially, that power thereby actualizing as a power over you. So when we are giving our power away, that power actually actualizes as a power over us. It's not fun. It is not fun. So standing in our power in relationships has a lot to do with right relationship with self. First and foremost, that we are not outsourcing our power, and that we are experiencing reciprocity and mutual respect and give and take with others in our relationships. Okay, let's close that one out for a little bit. I want to move on to Neptune in Pisces opposing Juno in Virgo. Okay, so I talked about this being one of the key axis of this mutable grand cross. Okay, no one is coming to save you, and you can't save anyone else. Juno represents marriage, partnership, and what I'm learning, and so I had this super fascinating discussion, which I am going to link in the description below, with some friends over at the Moment podcast, about Medusa and the Divine Feminine, and we went down a massive rabbit hole. I really do recommend that you go and watch that video. It is a bit long, but I think it's worth it. It's informing kind of where I'm going with this talk today. And we talked about the previous sort of manifestations or versions of Juno. So the older version that predates Juno is a goddess called Feronia. and she was a mediator and guide for those going through the underworld. So let's talk about the underworld. It is a place one descends into because a death, transformation, alchemical process of some sort is required. This place resides in the depth of the psyche, the unconscious. This is why, on the way down, one is stripped of the armor one wears for protection. It is the wound beneath the armor. How does this translate to real life? When a trauma occurs, the intelligence of the holistic body, so I'm talking mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, creates an armor of protection called a trauma response. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. This is how one survives. So denying, blaming, or generally looking down upon a trauma response is thoroughly counterproductive to the healing process. It actually stagnates it. Armor is needed when going to battle. Translation. To real life, trauma responses are necessary to survive abusive/toxic relationships and situations. Continuing to wear the armor after battle weighs a person down. Translation to real life. Trauma responses become integrated into the personality, and it's amazing how quickly this happens because we are adaptive creatures wired for survival. This leads me to speak to Feronia's other gift and role: to assist warriors returning from war in the processes of healing and reintegration into the community. Obviously, war is traumatic. Warriors taking others' lives, becoming injured, witnessing lives being killed in front of them, requires mega armor, and still the trauma is imprinted deeply into the psyche. Plus, the whole spirit realm of it all, which includes unrested spirits latching onto people, creating intergenerational issues such as addictions, mental illness, abuse, etc. In order to protect the community and heal the warriors, Feronia would oversee this process of the warrior taking off their armor, addressing the wounds, and integrating them back into the community. Maybe they would never become fathers. Nevertheless, they may become elders in facilitating this healing process for future warriors, held in high regard by the community for their protective role. In all my workings with people and their trauma and my direct experiences, I want to be a part of resurrecting this function in society and apply it to our modern world. It can't be that hard because there's still cultures exercising this. The war of colonization is alive, well, and thriving. I'm noticing that where there is progress and reconciliation or anti-colonialism, a surge of supercharged colonialism rears its ugly head again in a desperate yet powerful attempt to maintain its power over others. We are talking about Neptune and Pisces opposing Juno in Virgo. Colonization is a collective theme, an insidious wound that no one is immune to. no matter what side of the fence one is on, because it is a pathology that hurts both the perpetrator and the oppressed, even though the perpetrator is obviously in a position of benefit and privilege. Sickness spreads. It does not spare anyone. Like a fish in water who asks, "What is water?" We are all swimming in it. This beast of colonization. Guidance and mediation is required to facilitate the processes of the human spirit descending into the underworld, as well as the healing and reintegration processes following battle. Translation: people need guidance, support, and mediation with the spirit world when embarking on healing trauma for many reasons. One, there is no one size fits all. Every soul is unique. Two, it can get very dark, depressing, triggering, confusing, so someone's got to keep the light on. Three, to exalt the wounded healer in all of us. We all have Chiron somewhere in our natal charts. And there is something so painfully beautiful about the reality that we are all wounded in our own unique ways, and therefore carry the medicine specific to healing that wound. So, my mind goes wild in eager fascination of the world we can create if we applied the medicine to the wound. Even if it stays very personal, an isolated process, the ripple effects into the collective reverberate outward. It is natural law. It does make a difference. Take a pause. Okay. Medusa. Medusa is an asteroid who is currently in the sign of Gemini, opposing this moon in Sagittarius. So now we're flipping to the other polarity or axis point of this mutable grand cross that I'm so excited about. In the Medusa story, after her death, Asclepius, who was a god of medicine who was mentored and taught by Chiron, Asclepius was given most of Medusa's remaining blood, and he used the blood from her left side to take people's lives, and he used the blood from her right side to raise them from the dead. The remaining 2 drops of blood were placed in a vial, which Athena gave to her adopted son. 1 drop was considered a cure-all, and the other a deadly poison. The Gemini-Sagittarius polarity speaks to the bilateral nature of nature and the human holistic body like no other. We have 2 hemispheres of the brain, 2 of most things in our body actually. This provides the overarching framework for the multitudes of detailed communications happening simultaneously throughout our body. And there's so much exciting headway being made around the fundamentally dual nature of the body. For example, our ability to regulate the nervous system through an integration of both our logical, detailed, orientated curiosity and our more receptive, meaning-making capacity while leaving room for the unknown. Jeffrey Wolf Green talked about the dynamic of one discovering new information, Gemini, that would throw off the established higher meaning Sagittarius, causing a revolving door of an identity crisis. He was particularly referring to folks with Pluto in the third house or Gemini. It is destabilizing. It's this new discovery causing a death of something that was once established. Weaving this back into Medusa's story, we witness the theme of dichotomy. How can the same blood have the power to cure and kill? This is the feminine. This is nature. Take Devil's Club, for instance. Devil's Club is a plant that grows around where I am. If y'all know it, you know that it's definitely not one to mess with. It's got big leaves. It's got lots of really pokey things on its stems and leaves. And you can actually get a staph infection from Devil's Club. And you know what else Devil's Club can do? It can heal your staph infection. It all depends on how you use it, your relationship with it. The medicine is in the poison. This is the path of the feminine, in balance with the masculine. With the moon's nodes in Aries, Libra, we can easily see how relationships have the power to be poisonous and how they also have the power to be medicinal or healing. It all depends on how you show up, how they show up, and how past relational traumas affect the present on all sides. Making frequent pauses for choice, check-ins, new discoveries via heart-centered curiosity and self-honesty, and giving that which is ready to die a good death are essential ingredients on the relational healing journey. That is really the crux of what I want to talk to you all about today. I do want to mention that Mercury is going retrograde the day after this new moon for the remainder of December. And we also have Jupiter opposing, who's ruling this moon, opposing Venus and Pallas Athena in the sign of Scorpio. So I don't know if you could tell, but that, that really illuminated my angle on this talk as well. So I hope that we take this next, this last chunk of this year, I guess, to really examine these stories, these old stories that we hold within us, within our psyche, within our unconscious, within our human history, and to dig deeper and deeper and deeper to really illuminate these themes of becoming our best self so that we can have the best relationships. So the intersections of trauma, childhood wounding and growing older, becoming wiser with every experience of death and rebirth. You know, that serpent eating its own tail. That is the healing journey. It is constantly in a cycle of death and rebirth. And again, if you want to hear more about that, I encourage you to go and watch this talk on Medusa and the Divine Feminine that me and a few other brilliant souls made happen the other week. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. Blessings, and grace, and ease, and beauty.